Good evening. My name is Lin Billings Vela, and I'm one of those judges that has to decide what is in the best interest of that child that's now appearing on my docket. And how do I make those decisions? They're the most vital decisions that a judge can make. Those of us that have the privilege, and it really is a privilege for me to be assigned to the Dependency and Neglect docket, feel that it's the most important docket that we have in the courthouse. Frankly, there's just no more important decision that we're making that impact the lives of children forever than the decisions we're making in a dependency and neglect docket. And so from those teachers and law enforcement and concerned citizens and everyone who is bringing abuse and neglect to the forefront in our community, and those of us that work in the system, we know how important these cases are because the future of children depend on it and us getting it right. And so this is where CASA is so important, because they join in partnership with the professionals, with the caseworkers, with the guardian ad litems, with any other parties appearing in court, and they help bring to the judge the information that we need to make the best possible decision. And so I had a chance to look back on the CASA program and how many children it's impacted since a Seattle judge came up with this idea back in 1977. I need good information to make good decisions about children. And so that concept of CASA was started back then. And we're so fortunate since 1989 to have had CASA of the Pikes Peak region right here. In fact, as a law student in the early 90s, I went through the CASA training. And I was a CASA advocate for a young sexual abuse victim. And it was really fulfilling to be able to investigate and bring that information to the judge and know that I was an important part of at least making sure that judge had the most up-to-date and current information about how she was doing in school. Was she making it to her therapy appointments? Was there anything else that she needed? But more than just that, I can remember one really special day. It was her birthday around that week, and so we did a family trip to go roller skating. And I'm here to tell you that there is no special skill set that is required to be a CASA advocate. I'm an absolute klutz. But all it takes is just somebody who's willing to be there and go do that roller skating trip, or be that person who's supporting the CASA programs in some other way. And so now as a judge, some 20 plus years later, those same reports that I generated as a CASA advocate, I now look forward to seeing on those cases where our kids are fortunate enough to have a CASA advocate. I'll tell you a little secret. I pull those CASA reports out first. When my in-basket's there, I dig for them, and I'll tell you why. And it's just like Dave Johnson said, these are just real perspective reports from the eyes of a CASA advocate, and I love them because they have photos. And they really help emphasize for me that these are children, these are not just names on a printed docket. And so reading that CASA report and then hearing the report from the advocate really brings to life this little child in my courtroom, if they're not able to be there in person. And there have been some amazing CASA reports over the years, and some come immediately to mind. I remember 4 children who were abandoned here by their mother. They were Hurricane Katrina refugees, and she literally abandoned them here. And with the assistance of an absolutely amazing CASA advocate, we tracked down Camden, Louisiana, and ultimately children were placed with Camden. We actually had 2 adopted. But this CASA advocate actually brought, kind of assisted the kids in getting back to Louisiana because she was that one consistent, just like Dave Johnson had talked about. We have intake caseworkers, we have ongoing caseworkers, we have a couple of judges, in fact, that could hear and see the case. She was that one consistent person who really did a great job for these kids, and that's who they felt comfortable traveling to Louisiana with. And I'm remembering another case in particular as well. We had a young man who, well, young boy at the time, he's a young man now, again, kind of alone here in Colorado in foster care. And that CASA advocate really advocated for him through the Milton Foster Children's Fund to get a chance at summer camp. And without that fund, without that advocacy from his CASA advocate, he wouldn't have had that normal summertime experience I think we hope our kids all have an opportunity for. I really remember a case, and we have several of these, where we have medically fragile children, and their therapeutic and medical needs are so extreme. There's so much to keep track of, and those CASA reports really detail that out for me, and I appreciate that very much, making sure that those kiddos are getting all the services they need. I know we had a CASA advocate serving 2 very special girls who were adopted by the vendors. I had the absolute joy and privilege to preside over that adoption hearing. And I know Poppy and Millie had a real head start on their finding their forever home with the vendors because of their CASA advocate. I also can think of 2 girls that have been on my caseload since I've started, and through, I believe it was Lifelong Links, but I know Lifelong Links, they're amazing. Our government should be as good at tracking down people as Lifelong Links is. But through Lifelong Links, we found kin in Arizona. It's amazing. They will find kin that parents don't let us know we're out there. But they found kin who were willing to adopt or be a placement for these kiddos until the parents get successfully rehabilitated. Or unfortunately, in this case, they were not able to, and their parental rights were terminated. So then, I'd never met them. They'd been a voice on the phone at hearings, but our CASA advocate, on her own dime, went down to Arizona to visit the kids. And I was so thrilled that she was able to be there at the adoption hearing. And I think that family felt such a connection to their CASA advocate and to Colorado. They actually drove up here from Arizona for that adoption hearing. There was not a dry eye in the courtroom that day. It was that first-hand eyes-on report from that CASA advocate that really helped assure me that the decisions I was making served the best interest of those 2 sisters in finalizing that adoption this summer. I also want to talk about how our CASA advocates are tremendous advocates, not only in the dependency and neglect arena, but we also have an exceptional and I think fairly revolutionary, and Magistrate Patrick Court, tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't know how many other CASA programs have a supervised exchange and parenting time program in their courthouses like our CASA program does. A lot of my dependency and neglect cases could end in an allocation of parental responsibilities order. If you have a question about the details about those, ask Dave Johnson. But it's really an appropriate order to enter if termination is not in the children's best interest. Maybe we have one safe and stable parent, and the other parent is maybe still struggling with their treatment. But how can we assure that these children are safe and they're having a successful visit with parent when we still need the supervision? Thankfully, I can put in a CASA supervised exchange and parenting time order. And it's invaluable to our domestic bench as well, because it's another safe place where children can have exchanges for parenting time between parents, and those kids are not exposed to that high conflict divorce or other experiences that they'd have, as you can imagine, in a negative visitation exchange agreement. So I know the domestic bench is just as grateful for CASA as we are in the juvenile bench as well. And CASA's done a tremendous benefit to our families, also involved in divorce cases, and really helping our divorcing parents understand the impact that divorce has on kids. So not only are they serving abused and neglected children, but really all of our children who can be at risk one way or another here in our community, and I'm just so grateful for that. So to go back to the beginning here, when those kiddos arrive on my docket and I'm needing to make decisions that are in their best interest, how does the judge make that decision? Well, the best decisions are made with the best information. And I know that when there's a CASA advocate on a case, they are working with the rest of the treatment team to make sure that I get all of the information that I need. They're a tremendous resource to make sure I get that detailed information to make the best possible decision to ensure that our kids are well served. So those two children who had to be placed in foster care in the middle of the night, they don't live in limbo. We have the information that we need to see them successfully achieve permanency, hopefully by returning to successfully treated parents, or if that's not possible, by being placed permanently with kin or others through adoption. And those two kids can go on to live a life that we wish for all of our children in this community. And for that, I'm so grateful for CASA advocates, CASA staff, who do an amazing job, and all of you who support the CASA programs. Thank you.